Mallet, yeah, I spoke about it, um, and Nkrumah documented it in the book Africa Must Unite, the situation. Um, but what I was trying to say was that he faced a lot of problems, and those problems normally are faced they were faced by most of the leaders um, in Africa, the independence leaders in Africa during that stage when the nations were at their formative stages. So during that formative stages, there were some tribes in different countries which were formed after the expulsion of colonialism. So those dominant tribes, they saw it as encroachment on their power for leaders to want to assert the existence of these nations. So when the nations wanted to exist as in the picture of these independence leaders, these tribes, when you go to, for example, Ghana, the Ashantis, when you go to East Africa, you find the Waganda, they were very problematic in that they wanted to stay dominant. They wanted to take the center stage. And even today, you find that to a certain level or a certain extent, these tribes still play a very important role in the political direction of the country, because in many cases they are the dominant tribe when it comes to population, when it comes to education, because they were at the center of these colonial territories. So people like Nkrumah and Milton Obote of Uganda had to face these problems, that these tribes wanted to still stay that way, and then they opposed him. So in many cases, when they did not get what they wanted, they turned to the opposition side of things, and they started opposing from there. Do you see? So Prime Minister Abiy and what he's dealing with in Ethiopia, it could be very similar to that, because to a larger extent, Ethiopia has remained uncolonized. So even though it has had these problems, but it has not had these problems to the level that it was colonized, and then it wanted to bring in a new system, which is sort of a unified colonial state, or a state that is transitioning from colonialism into a republic. To a certain level, Ethiopia has existed and it has preserved its culture. So those wrangles between tribes, the dominant and the non-dominant, they did not exist to a level of conflict in the same way that existed in the colonial states, the ones which were colonized. Now, I think that the Prime Minister Abiy is facing it right now, because he has attempted to reform the system. So now the dominant tribe, which was the Tigray, and in this case, which is the opposite, it is the minority. It is a minority, and it has been dominating for a very long time. Saw him as an enemy, because he was trying to give back power to the less, dominant but majority tribes. So this situation is very similar. Is very, very similar. So to this level, okay, it did not occur during that period, of the 60s and the 70s, when independence was being gained in other territories in Africa, because Ethiopia is distinct and it has its own structures, and it has been able to preserve itself to a certain level. So he Prime Minister Abe is coming in to destabilize that order, which was there already, okay, which was there with one dominant group. So he's trying to give back, to redistribute that power and give it back to the majority tribe, okay. So it can be really problematic. You have to face certain problems because they will resist. So it's the same thing, you know, in Ghana and then other territories, that Nkrumah was trying to take this power from the Akans or the Ashantis and give that power to everyone in the country, all the tribes, to try to make them sort of equal. Okay, so he has to face resistance from the Akans or the Ashantis specifically, because they did not want to share this power. They did not want to look at other groups or tribes as equal. So in Uganda it is the same. You have Devaganda, that Devaganda as a tribe do not want to look at other tribes as equal or equal citizens in a new society that was created to share the resources equally. So they had to fight against Milton Obote of Uganda, and then this became problematic, that Milton Obote of Uganda, who was the prime minister at that time, had to chase out the king of Uganda out of the country, and the king, you know, he was exiled to Britain, and he stayed there up to his death. You can see this also in Kenya, that you have these problems. You have the Kikuyu, and then you have the other tribes, you know, stuff like that. So that the dominant tribes always wants to, the dominant tribes or tribe wants to hold on to that power, that they don't want to share it. When you go to Zimbabwe, is the same situation, that you have these situations. But as a Pan-Africanist, how do you deal with them? It is problematic, okay. But you have to still educate, be patient, and educate the people. And I saw that the Prime Minister, during launching of the library, which is the biggest library in Ethiopia, and I think it is potentially the biggest library in Africa also, he spoke about this, and he said that it is important for us to open this library so that we can be able to document our history, and we can be able to give our history to the people to read it. We can give our people access to this history so that they can read it and understand how it is important for us to preserve our nation, and not just go about destroying things, destroying infrastructure, destroying property. So in essence, so that we can teach them patriotism, how to be patriotic to your nation, okay, so that you don't look at the nation as your own property, as a person. So I think he tried to highlight this. So this is education, trying to educate the people patiently, so that they can see that we are not only like Tigrian people or Baganda or Ashantis, but we are part of maybe Ghana. But most importantly, we are Africans. That is the most important aspect of it. And we are Africans who are existing in a continental, a continental country, called Africa, okay? And we are existing at the same time in a world that is extremely competitive. So this world is competitive, and we cannot approach it as Ashantis or Tigrians or Baganda or Shonas or any other tribe, and we cannot approach it as Ghanaians or Zimbabweans or Ethiopians or Kenyans or Ugandans, but we can only approach it as Africans, because Africans are littered all over everywhere. The Africans are littered all over everywhere in the world, in the United States, in Europe. I've been hearing about Africans who are being mistreated in Ukraine right now. Africans are existing in Asia, Africans everywhere, and their condition is the same everywhere. Their condition is the same as we are living in Africa. Okay, even though maybe in Africa it may be relatively better because we have access to certain resources, but those resources are still in the control of certain alien, groups of people who are exploiting those resources. So we cannot exist as Africans in this world without understanding that we are also players in it. Okay, so this is the approach I think that is supposed to be taken on by all Africans. This is the approach that should be, emphasized by Pan-Africans or Pan-African leaders going forward as we build a new Africa that is sustainable, not only to a few, but is also sustainable to everyone that is living in need and those who are Africans but are living outside the continent. So this is my view, and this is my understanding of how to approach this problem of tribalism, and how to show the people that they are African and not only Shona, Kikuyu, or Ashanti, Fanti, or Wolof, or Ghanaians, or Senegalese, or Zimbabweans, South Africans, Ugandans, Algerians, or Morocco, or Maasai, and all that. But we are Africans, and this Africanness gives us a guarantee of security. The Africanness is not that we want to eliminate our tribes, okay, and make the place homogeneous with one language. No, the Africanness, or the African Union, the African nation, as Nkrumah envisioned it, not the African Union as these people who are running it right now are doing it, but the African Union, the African nation, as Marcus Garvey and Nkrumah and all the other ancestors like Padimo and George Padimo and others, Walter Rodney, as they envisioned it. That is the Africa that we are running, and that Africa will guarantee the preservation of each of our more than 2,000 tribes and cultures, because they will now be protected from encroachment from external cultures that have been coming and wiping out these cultures and integrating themselves with these cultures. You can see what is happening in South Africa, Botswana, and all those places, that these foreign cultures have come in there and integrated themselves, and they are encroaching on what is really African. And our culture can only exist, because it has boundaries. We have certain do's and don'ts. That is what defines a culture. So without that, then there is no culture. Okay, so there is a lot of culture, culture poor people who are coming in from external civilizations, and they are trying to integrate those uncultured ways with which they have, been or learning, or which they have been hooking up and integrating them with the African culture, and that becomes problematic. So how can we preserve our cultures as Africans? We can only do that if we have a union government of African states. So this is the guarantee that it can protect us. We have African policies, and we have what Nkrumah called the African personality. So the African, United States, or United States of Africa, or Union of African States, is just a guarantee for us to stay as Africans and have the African personality at the center of everything. And then everything that is African will be preserved within that Union of African States. Thank you very much, Malet.